Hey, welcome to Forest County, Pennsylvania and the Forest County Outback channel, where we combine history with the outdoors. Now today we're going back to the site of a previous video, Balltown, because we've got new information on this and we wanted to do an update. So history nerds, stick around. This is going to be more fun than you've had in years. Now the Balltown site is all private property, and when we were here before we could only film on one little section of it. We don't film on private property without permission, and we only had permission to film one part of it, so we really couldn't understand the site, understand what was going on. Since then we've had permission to film the adjacent property, and we were able to crack this site. We know what was going on here now. This is Forest County Outback 38, Balltown, Redux. Hey, before we go down to the mill site, we're going to take a little side trip right now to look at the Balltown Cemetery, which is right up this hill over here. So one of the interesting things about all these towns in the upper Tionesta Valley here, like Nebraska, Mayberg, Kellettville, Newtown, they didn't have cemeteries. Now there were some family plots, but they didn't have regular cemeteries. Newtown is, or Balltown here, is kind of the exception, except there are no markers. Well, there's actually, we can only find two. There's this one here, which is Lois Moore, 1892 to 1982. And then there's this fieldstone one here. Other than that, there are no markers. And there are supposedly about 50 graves in this site up through here. And who these people are, we don't know. There was a Methodist church here in Balltown. I'm sure they had records, but where did those records go? So you've got these graves, basically unmarked graves, and you know, really nobody knows who they are. Okay, brief recap on what we found before. Now, the sawmill at Balltown was built in 1823. Three partners, Isaac Ball, Luther Manross, who lost an arm in the sawmill, and I can't remember the other guy's name right now. As an aside, Isaac Ball was the great-grandfather, or might have been great-great-grandfather, of the actress Lucille Ball, who was born and grew up in Jamestown, New York, which is probably about 50 miles north of here. Now what we found here was this dam here that I'm standing on. This was part of a dam, and it went across the creek over here, and then it continued. There was a gap in it, probably had a bracket in it, wooden bracket, and then it continued over that way. Are you filming? So the other thing we found was this small collection of cut stone, and there's another stone over the bank behind us, and we thought that might be remains of the mill. Now the other thing was this very large trench. So it was obvious that they were drawing water from behind that dam down this trench. Now this mill was built in 1823, so it would have been a water-powered mill. Now if you're using it to power a mill, this is overkill. You don't need this much water. So then we speculated they might have been floating logs down here.
Action shots.
That was graceful. Yes. You can see the size of this channel. This was much more than a raceway to power a sawmill. They were floating logs down here, and we're sure of that, and as you'll see a little later on. And it came down this channel, and it emptied out. There's a slough across here, which is natural, and it emptied into that slough, and then flowed on downstream. All right, now you see the intersection where that channel comes into the slough. Look at the slough on the upstream side. And as you come around and look at the slough on the downstream side, you can see this has been dug out. It's been, for lack of a better word, I guess, channelized. Now walking down along that channel, we have some kind of a stone foundation here, and then out here is an elevated, it almost looks like a railroad grade, but there's no record of a railroad being on this side of the creek. It may have been like a horse tram for something. It looks like there was a building on this end, you know, where that foundation is, and it continues on down this way. Now there's a series of depressions along here. Look like there may have been some buildings here at one time. There's one here, and then there's a much larger one over that way.
little jumpy with the...
And we've got another cellar hole. Okay, now we come to the mill site, and we're in what would have been the log pond. You can see the dam, the remnants of the dam over here. So we've got the dam, we've got a break in it. The dam continues over there by that broken cherry tree. Now the mill sat down over here, and we know that because in this stream are a whole series of timbers. Now back in the day, you know, they didn't have access to concrete, so they were using wooden timbers for foundation. It makes you wonder what's underneath, how much is underneath all this this dirt here.
Timber right there.
Yeah. This is the one with the notches. Mm-hmm. Okay, so here you can see the notches, the tendons cut in here, in this one. And there's a couple more on down here. And that right there seems to be about the end of it. So the mill sat in this area over here. And it was a very large mill. All right, so we're standing on top of the dam. The log pond was over that way. And you get a little bit of elevation, you can see the outline of the mill here. And we're going to get a shot from up on that bank that'll really define it. So we've got this cut in the dam, probably some kind of an overflow maybe. Well, that doesn't make sense because that would go right into the mill. So, okay, I'm not sure about this cut here. But over here looks like a boiler house. Around the other side, you can see the stone here. So we've got this mound here, and you can see there were stones laid in courses on this side. Now what this was, we're not sure. It looks like there may have been a bridge across here at one point. I'm not sure about that. We have to get on the other side and look around over there. Now we're down below the mill where the slough reconnects with Tionesta Creek, and this would have, in the early days, they rafted their lumber down to Pittsburgh. This would have given them a sheltered place to put the rafts together before floating on down. Now we don't know how long this mill was in operation. Quite some time. Apparently long enough to be converted into steam, which would probably have been in the 1860s. And then later, when the Balltown, the oil boom hit Balltown, that mill would have been, they would have been practically printing money, because there would need lumber for housing, lumber and timbers for their drilling rigs, and they were perfectly positioned to take advantage of that. So we're, you know, ending date of the mill we don't know, but it was here for quite some time, and they were in a position to be very profitable with it. And by the way, we're going to do another video on Balltown talking about the oil boom at some point. Okay, so what we had here, we had the dam across Tionesta Creek that diverted water and logs down that channel into that slough down to this mill site. And they moved a lot of dirt to do that, and you may wonder why. Well, if you build your mill on Tionesta Creek, guaranteed you're going to get flooded. I mean, it gets pretty crazy in the spring, and you got ice jams and that. Not only are you going to get flooded, there's a pretty good chance your mill is going to get washed away. Over here, they were protected. I'm not saying they couldn't get flooded, but they were protected from, you know, from Tionesta Creek. So they they moved a lot of dirt. They put a lot of effort into it, but I think in the long run, it made sense. Now the dams on Tionesta Creek, they were always a problem. They were washing out all the time and having to be rebuilt. So yeah, what they did here makes sense. So what you've got, you've got that channel bringing logs down into the slough, down to here, through the mill, which we're going to do a shot from up on the bank. This was a very large mill, and I'm sure it went through several rebuilds and improvements in that over the years. So what we're looking at would have been the final footprint of this mill. And like I said, we don't know when it went out of production, but I would say in the late 1800s. Okay, in this clip, I am walking around standing by various features to give you an idea of the size of the site. in the layout. There I'm standing by the stream with the timbers. And then I'm walking over to the dam and walking along in front of it. And then I'm going to go over and stand on top of the boiler house. Okay, that's it for the Balltown sawmill. We will be back sometime to do one on the oil history here. In the meantime, you can follow us on Facebook at the Forest County Outback Facebook group. There's a couple membership questions. Please answer them. And if you invite somebody, make sure that they answer them. So, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Comment, share, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.